What's going on, everybody? I'm Keith, host of Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas, where 4 to 5 of my brothers give their perspective on national as well as local news. We touch on some trending hot topics as well as culturally relevant news. We also get a chance to dive into some deep core conversations. Check us out live every other Monday at 7 p.m. You can find us on Just Our Thoughts on YouTube live, as well as Just Our Thoughts fan page on Facebook. Also, please don't forget to follow us on IG, JOT with the Fellas. Yo,
what's up?
What up?
Man, what's up, fellas?
What's the deal?
Hey, man, we celebrating and enjoying this holiday season, man. Everybody is too, man. And this year is coming to a close. 2020 is coming to a close. A lot has gone on in this year, 2020. Starting early in 2020, man. Want to just, ask y'all guys, man, what's some of y'all takeaways? What's some of your takeaways from this year, from 2020? And are you looking forward to, this next year coming up, man? What's some of the things you're looking forward to? What's some of the things you're ready to get rid of? When you talk about 2021 and transition into another year, what's your thoughts, man?
Or you want to start him off?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really haven't changed much through this pandemic anyway. I mean, me living alone and, being deemed a essential worker since we're building a school.
Right.
It really hasn't changed. But what I did see is what I kind of took away from this year was the resiliency of people.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? We got hit with this. And it wasn't like everybody went in a real big in a panic. We had some people that were, but as a whole, man, it's like everybody kind of kept it together.
Right.
We didn't want to just let it consume us. We wanted to, try to have some type of normalcy to fight for it. Even though we had some other issues in the mix that started some controversy, but as far as I'm concerned, man, the population as a whole across the globe, handled it kind of well. That we didn't let it consume us, tell us that that we had to stay in a bunker, even though we might have been better off.
Right, in a bunker.
But I mean, say what?
You sound like you got a little cold there, man.
Nah, I'm a little stuffy, man. I get like this every once in a while.
Yeah. E, what you got, man? What's some of your takeaways, from 2020?
Man. Hey, man, listen, man. As I sit back, man, and reflect on 2020, man, whether I'm just watching TV, talking to somebody, or just up in a Zoom meeting, man, I think 2020, man, has been a emotional roller coaster, man. It's been filled with a lot of challenges, man. And I'm talking about like an increase in like mental health issues, man. This whole COVID-19 death rate continues to soar. I know we're going to talk about that a little later on.
Yeah.
And it's like every once a week, man, you'll find out, man, that somebody or somebody that that knows somebody, tested positive for COVID, man. So it's just a rocky roller coaster, but. Yeah. On the flip side of it, man, similar to what Ward said, man, I've seen just a outpour of genuine love, of just family, man. People are getting close, and that's a good thing. I've seen a lot of humanitarian efforts of people just making some masks, being in the food bank, just kind of those foundations, man, just showing, love and support throughout this whole, unprecedented time. So,
I agree with you, man. When I think about 2020, this is an unprecedented type of year, a year that we've never seen, in our lifetime, man, where, and everyone talks about COVID, where it's just simply taking over our life, the way we live, throughout the world, and each country, each, place, they handle it differently, man. I also think about, racial injustice, the shift that has changed, in terms of, our culture, really standing out, when I think about 2020, and really just stepping forth. I remember seeing, comments, about this is not this is not Black folk of yesteryear. We taking charge and we standing up and we out there. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm looking forward to change in so many areas, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's, wherever it is, man, in entertainment. You know what I'm saying? I'm just simply looking for change, man, in that area specifically. So, when I think about 2020, man, this is a year and we got a few more days left.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the good thing, man, I've seen a lot of families come together. You know what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of families, doing a lot more family, events, man, just spending time with each other, posting them, these events and having fun game nights. I'm big on game nights. So, I thought that was dope, under the conditions that, we're placed in, and like you said, we'll touch on the COVID, and the vaccine and everything a little bit later. So, Ward, what you looking forward to, Ward, in next year, man? You looking forward to anything?
Just to continue path that I'm on right now.
Right, brother.
Right now I'm feeling good. Some bright things look like they're coming in the future.
Right.
Cam the High's coming along. So I'm just happy to see what the path that I'm on.
Yes, sir.
I'm waiting to see that come out. See how it's gonna turn out.
E, what you looking forward to, man? You looking forward to anything different? Anything?
Hey, brother, I just want to maintain good health and get more wealth.
I'm with you, E. I'm with you. Hey, E, when you said maintain good health, it reminds me, man, every time we run into somebody, everybody asks you how you doing. That was one line that you always use. Hey, man, I'm maintaining, man. I'm maintaining.
Maintaining, brother. It's hard, man. It's a struggle out here, brother. We got to keep pushing, man. Keep pushing, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, everybody. To Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas. Welcome to our podcast where we talk about cultural news. We talk about national and local news. We talk about, culturally relevant topics. And
there you go.
Topics. There we go. Got a little twisted right there. And we have some good core conversations, some great dialogue. I'm Keith, your host, and today we got with us my brother EB, Capital, E-Dub.
What up?
What's going on? We also got Ward Heen.
What's the deal?
What's going on, Ward? Hey, Ward, that setup looks good, man. That setup looks good, man. Look like
look good.
We screaming in the mic.
Hey, Ward, I know you over there doing some LB Shore songs, are you?
Hey, whoa. No, nah, I'm rapping, man. I'm rapping. I'm pulling my heavy D out of me.
I got you.
Hey, Ward, how about some daylight? Talk
some
to
daylight. Oh man, we could talk for days about daylight.
So, today we missing our other brothers, man. KD, we love you, brother, and Dre Norwood, man. We love you. Happy holidays to you, man. To you and your family. Let's get into some trending topics, man. Some current events, man. What's going on, man? What's some news that's going on? E, what you got, man?
Hey, yeah, real quick, man. Let us give a quick shout out to one of our brothers whose birthday was yesterday, Marcus Royal Haas.
Yes, hot. Yes, sir.
Ozzy Bear.
Ozzy Bear. Yeah.
Marcus Royal. His birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, our good brother.
That's definitely the brother right there. Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
So I guess one of the trending topics, man, is that whole stimulus bill.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things going on right now in real time. Yesterday, Trump signed a $900 billion bill for people to receive that $600 stimulus. But as we speak, the House is actually voting to increase that stimulus from 600 to 2,000. I don't know where it is now, but that's a hot trending topic right now. From 600 to $2,000 per person, $4,000 for a couple, depending on the people's financial state. So that's a trending topic right now.
Yeah, I saw something about it, man. I was trying to follow it, and whatever people can get during these times, man, I think personally is a plus. Some can take more, some are with the 600. The 600. I said 600.
600. Yeah, it's 600.
600.
It's 600.
600.
Yeah. So, Pastor Brenda said it's still in the Senate. So
Still in the Senate. Okay.
absolutely. Thanks, Pastor. She's definitely a fan of the show. So, it's still there, man. People could definitely use it, man, whenever it comes through, and do what they got to do with it, man. That's
But you know what though? As much as we don't like Trump, he did come out and say something good for once.
What did he say? What?
And he kind of like pointed out the frivolous spending that's in this bill.
Right.
He pointed out about all this money that's going to foreign aid. It's like, what if we're in trouble? Why are we giving the most money to somebody else? And then when we need it, but yet you're going to give everybody $600. What's that going to do?
Right.
That's going to pay half your rent or your mortgage. It might be your grocery bill for a month or so, but what is it really going to do? Because it's not like we've been in this pandemic for 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah, we've been this thing.
It's been it's going on 9 months.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and people do need a relief, man. They need some relief, man. I saw something with the unemployment too.
Because he didn't sign it. That they may lose a week of unemployment.
Yeah, and this is unprecedented times again, man. So, man, just keeping. I always keeping people in prayer, man. I see a lot of people doing some great work out there. Trying to support their community. Helping out during the holidays. So do what you can. You watch and do what you can. You may have something extra. Do what you can. To support others, man. What else you got going on, man? What's some other current events, man?
Hey, man. I got something from
Tennessee.
From Nashville, Tennessee. Christmas morning, we had a 63-year-old white man, and I just gonna have to put it out there just like that.
Right.
63-year-old white man, Anthony Quinn Warner. Basically, he was a self-employed computer guru. That's what his title was. He rolled up in the middle of downtown Nashville in an RV packed with explosives. He actually had a recording of a message telling everybody, if you don't want to get hurt, you better evacuate.
Really?
Yeah.
So he sent this out ahead of time.
Basically, yeah. It was like, I think it was a PA system in his RV that made the announcement. Get out of Dodge.
Jeez.
It's crazy. And from what I've heard was he was basically they're not exactly sure what the motive was, but they were saying he was he kind of had this 5G conspiracy theory, and he didn't particularly agree with what was going on. And from what I've heard was he pulled up in front of an AT&T store, and bomb went off. They were police were actually able to get people evacuated. He died in the blast. He was the only casualty. He was the only casualty. They say there were 3 people injured, but they were able to evacuate, and that explosion was ridiculous. Really? Yo, it tore faces off of buildings on both sides. And they said they affected like 9 buildings.
Really?
Crazy.
Did they label him a terrorist yet? Or
they didn't. They did.
Yeah.
They didn't.
I get it. Yeah.
At least I don't remember seeing anything them saying terrorists. It may have slipped my eyes, but I didn't. It's not like they're putting out terrorists.
Right. If it was somebody else, they would have named.
If it was, they definitely would have said something more than what they said.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah, man, that's
ridiculous, man.
Yeah, so this was Christmas morning.
Christmas morning, man. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
You wouldn't get that. You wouldn't understand that. You wouldn't understand it if it was on any day. You wouldn't understand that. Jeez, just the minds of people, man.
Yeah. But here's the good note. Nobody died but him.
Right.
You know, not to say it was a good thing they died, but you know, he took himself out and no one else, you know, there were no other casualties. 3 were injured. They didn't say how bad or what happened, but at least no other lives were lost over his stupidity.
Right. Oh man, that's crazy. Another news, man, we got I was reading today, man, that Master P and Baron Davis, they looking to buy Reebok. You know,
really
interesting. Yeah, they looking to buy Reebok. Reebok is trying to do some rebranding. You know, trying to, you know, they have since faded out. You know, of course, Nike and Adidas, you know, have been taken over when it comes to the sneaker brand and the sneaker, you know, that sneaker thing, man. So Reebok is looking to do something, and you know, I'm hoping. I want to see Master P is huge on buying and purchasing and investment.
Yes.
You know, he's always been, you know, I know he had his own label, that No Limit label, you know, and he employed his own, you know what I mean? So right now he's him and Baron Davis, you know, I hope it happened, because I would love to see the process, you know, and how that pans out, man. I don't know. People still wearing Reeboks or
classics?
Oh yeah. Just the classics? Okay.
Dude,
the other ones as well. I know Ward got a couple Reeboks in his closet.
Yes, sir. Boy, I just copped a pair of Iversons. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Questions, yes, sir.
Yeah, so they new ones?
They just dropped.
Oh, Iverson's still dropping stuff, huh?
Yeah. And I've gotten some new stuff from them over there. You know, recently. Yeah.
Apparel as well, or just sneaks? Is Reebok apparel or just sneaks?
They still have it. They still sell the stuff on their website. But I mean, and they've been coming out with a lot more. They're trying to be innovative, I should say.
Right.
You know, trying to contend with like Nike, and Adidas.
Yeah, Puma
and Puma's been real big
and coming up real big.
I'm big on Puma too.
I'm not.
Lord, you remember last year, man? We was at some outlet somewhere, and and we was about to get some of them Pumas, but somehow I don't know the size or something.
And I they didn't have my size, but I got them.
And you went home and ordered them online.
Yes, sir. I got them.
Well, you're a sneakerhead.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that. I know you like sneakers, but I didn't know you was a sneakerhead. Like,
I mean, I'm not a sneakerhead in the sense where I got to go out and buy some J's, because I'm not a big Jordan fan in that aspect.
Got you.
You know, I mean, I only like maybe like 2 or 3 pair of his, but I like to wear stuff that nobody has. I don't want to wear what everybody else has.
Got you.
Or like something with a little color in it too, every now and then.
Ward like something with some green and yellow that represents them Packers. That's what Ward like. So,
not if you see what them other Jones I got.
Yeah. Okay.
Them purple and gold Pumas, yes, sir. And actually, they were kind of a Kobe tribute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a sneakerhead. I get the regular sneaks, man. I actually don't even. I struggle paying more than $80 for some sneaks, man.
Oh, trust me, I'm not paying over 100.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for special ones, maybe.
Right.
I have paid over 100.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for 95, 80. If I could find some fly ones for $50, they trust me, I got them.
Yeah. I'm under 80, man. I'm under 80 now. Some shoes, I'm good. We could rock with some shoes, some casual ones.
Nah, ain't a big shoe pay.
But something to run in, something to walk around in. That's still a little fancy. What you got?
Oh man, you know what? I'll get some sneaks every now and then. Ward is the guru on the sneak stuff. You ask Ward about a pair, he'll say, I got them, or I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
I'm going to get them. But for me, last sneakers I bought was bought a pair this summer, man. I'm a Nike guy. I like the Nikes, man. I'll wear some Reebok classics every now and then. Not really big on the whole Adidas thing, but you get me some Nikes. I've always been a Jordan fan, just like you, Keith.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
back in the day in the high, man, I had probably a nice number of Jordans back in the day, man. Yeah, red, white, you name it.
Yeah.
Red,
As big of a Jordan fan I only had one pair that I recall, and it was the first pair. I remember Pro Shoe next to Cherry Hill.
Across the street from the Cherry
Across
Mall.
the street.
I only had one pair, and I forget when they came out.
What, the ones?
Yeah. When they first came out, though, like it
80.
It was like 84.
7,
It was like 87.
I think it was like 86, 87.
Yeah.
Because you gotta remember, Jordan wasn't in the league until we was in middle school.
Yeah.
And they dropped right then.
Right.
And it was right like in a seventh grade year they dropped. So that was like 86, 80, yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, yeah.
86.
Yeah, that was the first pair and only a pair of Jordan. As much as I love that cat, man, I was watching something of him earlier, man. Much as I love that dude, only had one pair, and I'm not paying that much.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy. $300-$400 for a pair of sneakers.
Yeah.
Sneakers for the same ones that came out 20 years ago. Ain't nothing new.
They're pretty pricey. Now.
I mean, oh yeah, they are.
Jordans, Jumpmans.
Yeah, but I tell you who making a comeback too.
Who's that?
Fila.
Oh
yeah.
Fila got some good stuff out now. I mean, they're doing a lot of retro stuff, but their stuff is, I mean, with the colors they're coming out with, even like, hey, I got my Grand Hills.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So tonight, man, we have our special guest, man. Dr. Perotte, man, will be joining us, in a few minutes, where we'll be talking about, the vaccine, so he'll be jumping on with us. We just wanted to, have our normal conversation, talk about some current events, some, local, national news, and, any core conversation, that may stand out, and he'll be back on, man. He'll be on around 7:30. So, if you guys got any questions, anything you want to share, please, man, just participate, be, a part of the conversation when it comes to this vaccine. It's taken over the world. It's taken over our life, and I've had conversations with people, and, many have said, they just tired of this conversation. They tired of the vaccine. They tired of this. It's overtaken. It's overwhelming. It's on TV every time they get to work. This is some of the things. These are the conversations that we're talking about. But this has never happened in anyone's lifetime. And I think it's important for us to, continue to, have these conversations and bring it to our platform so we can become aware, we can become knowledgeable. We just don't make a decision on our feeling or mistrust, but that we're open to whatever it is that's out there, and do our due diligence, when it comes to, this vaccine, so we can, be mindful of our family members, so we can protect ourselves, so again, Dr. Perotte will be jumping on with us around 7:30, so we're looking forward to having this conversation. So if you can, share this podcast, with your friends. Text your friends. He's coming on around in about 5 minutes. We want to give you guys some time just to join us, and be a part of this conversation with Dr. Perotte. So yesterday, man, it was a great day yesterday on Sunday. Katie and here, man, but we had an awesome, wonderful day yesterday, man.
For you, Keith, for you,
and for me,
and for Ward, yeah.
Yes. So, for those that don't know, I'm a huge Cowboys fan, man. One of my favorite players ever, Tony Dorsett. EB is a huge Eagles fan, and Ward, man, loves his Packers, man. And, KD loves his Eagles, and Dre loves his Eagles, and, Haas and the Bears. They got a chance to make the playoffs too,
Chris and the Chiefs.
Quaz, he loved them Chiefs, man.
Chefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
Chefs.
We had a great game yesterday, man. Great game, man. Hey, you still with Jalen Hurts? Hey, you still rolling with him?
Absolutely, man. I think that he showed some great poise. But hey man, if the offensive line can't
Did
hold
he?
up,
Did he?
well, hey, listen.
Because I remember, maybe about a week ago, it was he could read defenses and this and that. Man, he was running for his life most of the game.
Hey, well, you have to, man. If the offensive line is not going to hold up for you, man, you got to run.
Right.
You got to run, and I think that he did the best he could. Let's not forget about that. That touchdown to Deshaun Jackson that he threw. That shows that showed that arm.
Yeah, but that goes to horseshoes and hand grenades. Almost don't count.
No, I ain't talking about no almost win. I'm talking about the throw in general.
I mean, hey, that was a good throw. That sparked things, and actually, when I seen that, I'm like, we might have a good game here.
Hey, E, when I saw,
but it sputtered.
It definitely did. Yo, E, I'm gonna be real with you. When I saw Sean catch that pass, man, I was sitting there and I was like, yo, this dude can come back.
Right.
Impact on this game. And now this is just me, being a fan. I'm a fan of the game first. I love my boys. Can't stand Eagles fans, but I'm a fan first, man. And when this dude just came across that middle, man, and I'm sorry, deep middle, man, and caught that ball, I'm sitting, I'm like, yo, he
still got it.
Still got it. And he's not talked about often as one of the Eagle greats. I never hear that. You know what I'm saying? And I have no problem, man, giving him his props. I couldn't stand when he was younger, when we used to have to play him every game, man. He was burning people. Orlando Scandrick, man, man, he was killing people. So, Deshaun, man, Jackson is still ripping and running, man, up and down that field, man. But we got that win, and I appreciate
Hey, listen, you did get the win. Now, here's the funny thing, and I'm an Eagles fan. Somebody told me that they think that Deshaun Jackson got hurt when he did that flip in the
Okay, I didn't know that.
He probably did. He probably hurt his knee again.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, you know how people say things, so I don't know, man. But it's going to be interesting if he comes back next year. I mean, hey, he's been here for 2 years, but he's been hurt most of the time. But I would like to see him back, man.
I would like to see him back too, man. He stretches that field, man. I remember that one year he was with Washington, first play of the game against the Eagles. Bomb. And I just love the game, and I love wide receivers, man. And this cat hasn't lost a step, unless his step was just so far beyond others.
Right.
Can't tell, man. So we definitely enjoyed, man. This season, man, different type of season, that we're having. Basketball started, man. Ward, I know you're not a big basketball fan, man. Anything with basketball for you?
There you go. Sixers, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see the Sixers do something.
Mm-hmm.
I've always rocked with the Sixers, but of course, AI was my favorite. When he left, kind of basketball changed for me, and I've tried getting back into it, but it's not the same, man. It is not the same.
Yeah,
they're putting too much emphasis on LeBron. I ain't with that.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't, because you got, but maybe it's because he is the only superstar really out there at this moment, other than KD, and but it's like, because when we were coming up, you had so many players to look forward to, even on the teams that didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like we watched Supersonics because you wanted to see Sean Kemp get off. Him and Peyton.
Yeah.
It's just like we don't have. I don't see that excitement anymore. Everybody just wants to shoot from the perimeter. Nobody wants to go banging the boards and come down low. I don't see it anymore.
Right.
How about LeBron? LeBron, he's entertaining. Do you think?
Nah, they get out his way, or he flops. So I don't. He may be entertaining in that way. He's a good actor.
Yeah. Nah, man, I'm y'all know I'm a Bulls fan, and we was messing around one day, man. I just love basketball. I think I started watching and enjoying players now. You know what I'm saying? And I still will root for a team. I'm
right.
My Bulls, even though they're not doing anything. But I like the way the ball moves, in Golden State, when Golden State was Golden State, and now I see it in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I love watching that ball move, you know, and the same thing with Philly, man. I'm interested. You know, I've always wanted to root for a Philly team. I can't for the Eagles, but Sixers, man, I have no problem rooting for. So I've been rooting for them. I'm not sure what they're going to do with this trade. You know what I'm saying? So with this Harden trade that they're talking about, you know, I see some people not against it. So
yeah, we got to give it up to Doc Rivers, man. I think Doc Rivers is a great coach.
Oh, definitely.
And I just see him coming in. I mean, even already, man, he's making some power moves, man. As far as getting the team together, man, you know, passing that rock around, man, and just teaching discipline, man. I see a different style of play with some of the some of the same players. I mean, we did get some new players that came in, but you know, it's definitely a looks like a well-coached team that we have right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, we're gonna bring Dr. Perotte in. What's going on, fellas? Again, this is just our thoughts with the fellas. I'm your host, Keith, and you know, we got Ward Heem and E double capital E with us today, man. So for joining us, you know, we got Dr. Perotte with us. You know, Dr. Perotte is an emergency medical physician. You know, he's a friend of the show, definitely a friend of the show, a fan of the show, man. We can tap into Dr. Perotte, man. Thank God for networking, man. Thank God for, you know, just being open, you know. So Dr. Perotte wanted to chime in, you know. So we wanted to bring Dr. Perotte in, man. This vaccine, you know, there's a lot of, you know, conversation, you know, going on about this vaccine, Dr. Perotte. We thank you, man, for joining us. We thank you for taking time away from your family, you know, specifically during this time, this holiday season. We know you're busy, man. We talked to you. We know you're busy. I saw you know, you reach out, you know, you're looking for, you know, some physicians, man. And, you know, if you want to take some time whenever during this podcast, man, to, you know, to mention that, you know, in the area you in Central Jersey, man, you most certainly can. But Dr. Perotte is joining us. You know,
yes, doctor.
Yes. What's happening, Doc?
It's great to be back. It's great to be back. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Listen, we're glad to have you.
Yes.
Excellent. So Dr. Perotte, man, let's jump right into it. You know, we this vaccine has brought up a lot of different conversations, man, specifically amongst the Black community, you know, whether it's mistrust, you know, with America, whether it's mistrust with America making decisions, you know, regarding Black people's health. And, you know, a lot of things and myths are out there when it comes to this vaccine. So we wanted to bring you on, you know, and have you, you know, speak to us, man, let our fan base be more aware, you know, more knowledgeable, you know, when it comes to this vaccine. You see a lot more than what we have an opportunity to see. You know, we just hear, you know, and that hearing can continue, and the words change, and the conversation change, and untruths can be told. So we wanted to bring you in, man, and just talk about that vaccine, man. If you will, man, you know, share with us, man, some of the things that you you know, that you see, you know, the vaccine thing.
No problems. You know, the coronavirus is the most interesting thing we've seen in medicine in my lifetime, and probably in several other physicians' lifetimes. And, you know, the dynamic of it, the ability for us to not to understand it and control it. And, you know, really all we are right now, we're not at the phase where we're curing it. We're really at the phase where we're just barely managing it. We're managing it a little bit better than we did, you know, when it first occurred, you know, early on this year. So, you know, the advent of this vaccine, you know, and this vaccine has been worked on with multiple legs. There's still other pharmaceutical companies working on other forms of the vaccine, and these are the few that have come to the market that have just gone through multiple trials and have now subsequently presented themselves. And, you know, of course, you know, there's going to be a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of mistrust of the medical facilities and the medications that they would potentially give us because of history. You know, no one wants to see history repeat itself. You know, and the speed at which this vaccine has come to form is unlike any other. We've just never seen anything like it. Never has there been a time where there have been so many different companies working on a vaccine just the same. But, we're in 2020 and things are changing and something had to be done. And unfortunately, people of color have really suffered from this disease disproportionately than anyone and everyone else. And, now we're stuck right in the middle of having to decide, what's going to be the best for us. And at the end of the day, it's like, what's going to be the best for us? And it really all depends. It depends on your specific situation. It depends on your preference. It depends not only on your health, but the health of those around you, the type of work that you actually do. So all those things really come into play. So you got to really be mindful, really be thoughtful in your decision. You can't just all of a sudden say, well, I'm not going to do this because I don't trust the system, because someone that you know or you yourself could be very much affected by this vaccine. And so we'll go through a couple of different scenarios about the vaccine, and you guys can chime in at any point in time. Right now at the market, recently Moderna has come out with a vaccine. Pfizer has been out in front for quite some time. The main difference between them now is temperature storage. Pfizer has to be kept at a very low temperature at around minus 70 degrees. And Moderna, not so much, really around freezing, like minus 4 degrees. And the problem with those, if the temperature rises, if they're not kept in a freezer very, very cool, then it really becomes unstable and it doesn't do anything that it was intended to do. What a lot of people don't know about the vaccine, in addition, is that the vaccine is given in 2 parts. The Pfizer, probably about 2 to 3 weeks. The Moderna, probably about 3 to 4 weeks. It's a little bit farther out. And some of the side effects that you may get, are some of the similar side effects of like getting a mild flu. And, that's with the first dose of the vaccine. And what folks are not talking about as much is really the second part of the vaccine that really bring on a majority of the side effects. And for us in the medical facility, we have to be mindful of those things when we're actually even scheduling our shifts. Those who are taking the second part of the vaccine have to be prepared to be out of work for potentially 1 to 2 days. They shouldn't be scheduled back to back after their second dose, because your body's response to that second dose is supposed to be significant compared to the first. So, now we're seeing it on Facebook. We're seeing a lot of other various providers getting the vaccine and saying that they're okay. The actual expectation is that you are to be okay with the first dose. It's the second dose. We'll look to see how people are reacting. How bad is the reaction? Are people having to stay home? Are people really suffering? Are people having to take medications to combat some of the symptoms? And really, from a virologist, immunologist who studies this stuff, has a PhD, when they presented to the emergency medicine groups and societies and people that follow emergency medicine closely, they really try to give us some understanding between the 2 vaccines. And at the end of the day, they really say the vaccines are really about the same. When they break it down to its really sort of its mRNA, what it's supposed to do inside the cell, the stuff that's used to store it, may make it degrade and have mildly different effects in the body. But at the end of the day, it winds up producing what's called a spike protein that produces the antibodies that we need to fight this disease. So, that's a little bit on the Moderna versus the Pfizer. If we can, they'll try to tell you one is 94 point something percent effective, one is 95% effective. And, at the end of the day, this is not without warrant. In the medical community, whenever there's a lot of money involved, right? The government is pouring a lot of money into this stuff. The pharmaceutical companies are receiving a lot of money to produce this vaccine. So, there's always some potential side effects and everybody trying to get to the market first, everybody trying to make the most money. You know, there's all, you know, the only way I can say it is that, you know, the altruistic aspect of these companies, you know, it's one thing if they were doing it for free. We're trying to do the best we can for the world and for humanity, but there's some financial gain involved in this.
Right.
And whenever you have financial gain, and we've seen this countless numbers of times with just general medications that we all take and use, or family members take and use, you know, it's not until people start having serious side effects that you learn, well, they knew about these side effects in the clinical trials. They didn't really talk much about them. You know, one that, you know, that comes to mind for me is Celebrex. It's supposed to be the new drug that patients with, you know, different type of heart issues, different type of other digestive issues can take, and it's safe. And they never mentioned about the heart issues, and countless number of folks started getting sick from it. Percocet, that, you know, is sold on the street. Right. You know, oxycodone, the drug company that makes those.
That's,
you know, they talked about, oh, you're not going to get addicted. It's not really that big of a deal. You know, we need to control your pain. They push that campaign. Again, when there's a lot of money involved, you know, you really have to understand the full picture, you know, about what's going on with these companies. But on the flip side, there's the medical side. And, you know, if you're someone who's at really, really high risk and you have multiple medical problems, you can, and, you know, this is your livelihood. You know, if you work for public transportation, you're in contact with a lot of different people, unfortunately, whether you like it or not. And this is the type of work that you do for now, and this is what's paying the bills. You need to protect yourself, you know, because it just takes one small slip up, and it's not like your employers are sending you out in a full gear that is to protect you. And again, it's not like your driving conditions are compatible with having that type of gear on all day, every day, just the same. So, you know, and then you might live with someone who's elderly, has multiple medical problems. And if you're coming home to them and you're at high risk, you know, you have to really take that into consideration, you know, not to shift points, but, you know, we'd be remiss if we're not talking about what happens overseas, you know, as they talk about the disease, as they talk about the virus now coming on, that's much more infectious, that it takes a lot less, you know, even if you're protected, to actually catch the disease. It's 40 to 50% more, you know, infectious and spreading. And, you know, those things are a little bit alarming now that we've sort of figured out how to manage disease a little bit more. And we think that we'll have good control over the spread by having people social/physical distance and really wash your hands, keep your masks on. But, you know, things are happening in these other countries that we just can't ignore. And when they simply ask the question, is it here in the United States, or when is it going to come to the United States? I think we've all learned a valuable lesson from the coronavirus, in that by the time we're talking about it, it's really been too late and it's already here. It's just a matter of the sort of mushrooming and blooming and really just showing its face. And, you know, just like other states are, you know, here in the Northeast, we're keeping it under control, even though the numbers continue to rise, but the numbers are not as astronomical as some of the other places in the country. In Texas, down in the Southeast, down in Southwest, and in the West Coast, you know, they're really bracing themselves. They're having, you know, tents set up outside, and, you know, really long waits, and, you know, they're having to make really strong and hard decisions. And when your group that you service and you provide for is at high risk, and that don't have the luxury of being at home to really isolate and not have to work under conditions that, you know, that are not really the best for your health, there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. So I'll stop right there and take some questions as well.
Hey Doc, I saw earlier today, I was, just watching the news, man, and I saw, I think it was this was the month, the largest month of deaths that's happened since, the virus reached us. 330,000 people have died from coronavirus. We want to be able to not just only just talk about it, because we were having a conversation earlier. There's no other. What's the other option? For lack of words, while things are still developing. When we talk about, so many people have died, our loved ones, E mentioned it earlier, man, our loved ones are, just passing, and we're, but there's no other option. You know what I mean? When it comes to the flu, from what my understanding, the flu, the percentage is way less than the percentage of Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. When we talk about, 90+% rate, yet people are walking around us, all the time with flu vaccines, and we don't know. So, I was just made aware of that today, just doing some understanding. What's the difference in who benefits most in taking the vaccine? The difference in the 2020 of receiving the vaccine versus, and why should we trust? Why those that don't trust? Why should there be a high level of trust now in 2020 versus when things were happening back in the day? I know it's a loaded question, but I wanted you to just touch on that if you can. Why is this different? Why is this vaccine different?
I think this vaccine is different just because of the first point that you made. We've never seen death like this ever before. I mean, there's never been a year where you hear your friends and family talk about how many people they've lost. And it's just astronomical. You're just like, I can't believe another life has been claimed by the coronavirus.
Right.
And there's never been a time where we in medicine have had morgues that are overflowing, where the hospitals actually have to bring in cold, refrigerated morgues that are outside the actual building to put bodies in. That's never happened. It's happened in previous history, but it's never happened like we know it now. And, unfortunately, we're not doing enough to protect ourselves, meaning everyone doing their part. There are still folks floating around thinking there's no big deal, it's nothing to worry about. And it's true, because some of us that have the disease, because now the testing is widely available and more people are getting tested. They're getting tested multiple times. As soon as they have any type of symptoms, they're also going to get tested, which is also making the test which is making the numbers rise and really give us a really good understanding of where we are as far as the numbers are concerned. But we don't really have many options, is the bottom line. It's like, if you're at high risk for this disease and you could potentially die from the disease, the science behind it, as it's been told and explained with this vaccine, is pretty sound. What we don't know, for example, is just the coronavirus itself is still brand new. It's still developing. How long are we going to be immune for? With the flu vaccine, they do some very complicated math calculations. It's a conglomerate and group of vaccines for what they think is going to come. Right. And we all most of us get the vaccine, especially in the health profession, and other people try to get it as well. It's been much more widely acceptable, and with some milder side effects, and there's what's called herd immunity. So if I get it, if all four of us are living in a community and we get it, the likelihood of the coronavirus coming, or I should say the flu virus. If we all get it and all of our families get it, the likelihood of someone in our community, even someone coming from the outside with the flu coming into our community and having a wild spread within our community is very, very low, just because we will not be passing it on, and we will have our own antibodies fighting the virus itself, the flu virus. So, they're now thinking that we can go ahead and do the same with this new coronavirus. But again, how long is it going to last? That you don't need to take the vaccine if you've been diagnosed with the coronavirus for at least 90 days. You should and they say typically folks that have had it 90 days prior don't need to take the vaccine, and they really haven't seen many cases of folks actually getting the disease again within that 90-day time frame. So they just have people wait for now. And it's a tough decision. It's not a very easy one, and the vaccine is still very limited. They're really just rolling it out for health professions, those at high risk. I think they're talking about teachers and public safety workers, EMS, all those that are very much in contact with the public. But the public still has to do their part in staying isolated. And I think it's just very hard. I think as the cases started to go down, folks got a little bit lax, because it's been a while since we've been able to get together, and then Thanksgiving comes around, you really want to gather in your small groups. And then before you know it, it's like someone calls another person like, hey, I wasn't feeling too well, and now, I've been diagnosed with the coronavirus, and it starts to just snowball. And then you're just like, oh man, and you want to apologize to all the friends and family that you come in contact with because you just didn't know. And It's super, and we keep hearing the stories of folks saying, I just don't know how I could have gotten this disease. I wear my mask all the time. I don't go out. When I go to the grocery store, I'm pretty mindful of what I'm doing. And it's that sneaky, and it's that hard to understand how folks are still coming up with it. So,
Doc, you bring up a good point of how deadly this thing is. I was listening to you talk about those ice freezers that they're bringing in just to kind of, I guess, take the bodies out of the hospitals because it's such an alarming rate. And I saw something today where they said that you have ambulance riding around different hospitals, just trying to get someone to, service. That's a word. To service the people who are in disarray or going through something at that time. Doc, I guess my question is, we've seen President-elect Biden and a few other high-ranking officials take the vaccine. I'm wondering if you think that's going to be enough to try to convince some of the African-American community members to get this vaccine.
I think it's a start, because a lot of these folks have been in the background. They've been doing their own thing, in the political realm. You don't know you never heard of anybody taking the flu vaccine. You don't know who's up to date, who's vaccinating their kids, who's not vaccinating their kids. No one in Congress really says, well, this is our agenda and this is what we've done. We've done it consistently for ourselves, for everyone in our families, and to have these folks come out and really take the leap is really, they have to lead by example.
Right.
And unfortunately, if they don't, then it sets it up for the rest of the country asking a lot of questions. And unfortunately, if as a leader, that's what you almost have to do. And they now have to trust the government officials that have put this thing together, that have okayed it and said that we support it. And now they really have to. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's like, if you're gonna encourage everyone to take it, you have to really lead by your own example. And again, it's really hard to to say what's going to happen long term. But when we look at other mRNA viruses, the detrimental effects haven't been terrible. But the only thing that makes this a little bit new and novel is that it's just a disease that we've just not seen previously. So that's the part that makes it a little bit tough. And
but like, it's like even though like Biden, President-elect Biden got it, Pence had it done on TV. Like, I know there's still a lot of people out there saying, can we really trust that? Like, did they just get a placebo? Like, a lot of times
it's hard.
Stuff that you get is a placebo. So it's like,
and it's going to be hard to prove.
Right.
Either way.
Right.
At least because they could be like some, I'm sure, if the former president, Trump says he's not taking it, he's just not going to do it.
Right.
He's not going to try to fake it like he's not going to do. Just like in the beginning, he's like, why wear a mask?
Right.
Which is a little bit foolish, but then he had to really concede to start wearing a mask. He didn't have to do that, but for the good of all people, and as you see, even himself. And that just goes to show you that you can act like you know what's going on with this disease, and then you subsequently have to be hospitalized for disease. What a way karma works. What a way karma works. And it's just one of those things. It's like you can put on a show for the people, but the fact that you have to go to a hospital and you can have multiple physicians and nurses wait on you in the White House. I'm sure they're outfitted for all of those scenarios, but the fact that you have to be in a hospital and hospitalized for several days speaks for itself. And I think, everyone has to take it very, very seriously, because it's like, if he can get it and have to be hospitalized, then hey, you gotta really take that into account, because had that not happened to him, he would have probably continued to rant, against all progress for this disease, and unfortunately, we're living in a day and a time where this may prolong your life. It's just that, it's just, or it may prolong the life of your loved one. If I had to go home and my mother or my dad was on dialysis, had diabetes, high blood pressure, and I know, I'm at risk in my profession of interacting with patients, on a regular day-to-day basis, I would have no other choice but to take that vaccine. I'm just stuck, because it's like, either I have to stop working and rearrange everything that I do, and really to be able to be in regular contact with my folks, because it's hard to come home, to use an area, you sneeze in a bathroom, you sneeze in an open room, sometimes you can block it, but it still comes out and it's sort of spewed all over the place, and they just happen to walk around, or they're having a conversation, and before you know it, and
they give you that side eye anyway, like, yo,
exactly. everyone who does anything now, it's like,
it's like, oh, wait a minute,
wait a minute, you better go up here. I need 6 feet, okay?
Right.
Give me 10 feet, and it's just like that. You hear someone even clearing their throat, you're like,
or even sniffling.
Sniffle. And it's the winter season where common colds, and now in this day and age, it's like the common cold is not so common. You better make sure you don't have the coronavirus. That's just the bottom line, because it presents just like that.
Ward, you got something?
Nah, I mean, right now I'm taking this in.
Doc, can you I don't know if you could talk to us about the rollout. I often think about, or I've thought about, the mother, that the single mother, and I'm just simply being descriptive, the single mother that lives home, by herself, that isn't working, that has four children, that's depending upon the government, to help her. She's waiting for the stimulus check that, we talked about prior, and she's needing, the stimulus check, and, things are tough, for her. And, she already has some underlying health issues
of her own. Yep.
Of her own. I'm thinking about, what does that rollout look for her? I'm thinking about what does it, how is she able to, because from what I understand, and maybe, and I'm hoping you can clear it up, Pfizer or Moderna, they'll just be sending, the vaccine, to different areas. How does she, obtain, and how is she going to be able to get that vaccine?
Initially, it's going to be tough. She's going to have to wait till probably another month or two before she can obtain the vaccine, because the way they're rolling it out is that because it comes in 2 doses, so they have to give it to those that they believe to be at high risk first. And but without a doubt, that is the type of individual that really needs to be in contact with their local health department, with their local physician, that they want to make them aware as soon as the vaccine becomes available. They want to make sure that they're in the queue to be the next to get vaccinated, because it's really that person that's really at high risk, because it's the one, it's mother or father that has to provide for multiple children. And in this day and age, with remote learning, it's very difficult. You're waiting on a stimulus check to come. You still have to make ends meet. You still have to feed, and you can't leave the house for extended period of time because you have these children there. And, battling that and going through that dichotomy day in, day out, and they don't have really much of a choice but to put themselves at risk. They have to go work at the warehouse. They have to go work at the office where there's interaction with multiple individuals. They have to go work at, public transportation or whatever kind of public work that exposes them to the public itself. And they have to make ends meet. They're like, and there's no money coming to me, so I have to do what I have to do for these kids, regardless of what it is. I may have to unpack a truck. I just have to do whatever, by any means necessary, to get by. And those are the people that are at highest risk, because they have to also make sure they keep themselves protected. They have to have the appropriate mask on. They have to, they may potentially be taking public transportation, and interacting with multiple people on a regular basis, and you never know who's going to be their next contact. And of course, then, and if they are now can't work as well, suffering from the disease, because now they have to let their employer know that I'm positive. And then what's the employer going to say? You have to be home for 10 days. Right. Well, the bills are still coming. And it's a real thing that's affecting, the community. It's like, and these are hard and tough decisions, because when you got to put food on the table, it's like for any person that has to feed their children, the risk that you're willing to take is going to be pretty high.
Yeah.
And I tell my wife this all the time. I'm like, it may be great and glorious to be a doctor, but make no mistake that I'll do whatever I have to do to feed this family. I'm not above going to McDonald's. I'm not above working public transportation. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that this family gets taken care of. And, and people were willing to do that. People take great risks. And, if something were to happen to me, God forbid, that I can't work and that I'm disabled, but I have to make money and provide for the family, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. It doesn't, there's nothing too small. There's nothing too big. Right. But with those is the risk that's involved, and that's the part that's really sort of tough to really digest when you have to think about the complete dynamics of it all.
So it's 2 questions, man, that I wanted to throw at you that, some of our viewers have asked, and I'll just ask both and you can answer. One,
Okay.
Mr. B Connections, can people get the virus again after the 90 days? And also from a wonderful, great lady, an amazing lady named Mary Lean, does the vaccine have live antibodies?
The vaccine does not have live antibodies. The vaccine both of them are an mRNA vaccine that it's used. It's really sort of a smart science. It's inject with preservatives that goes into your muscles and goes into your cells and goes all the way down to the nucleus and causes the nucleus to now start producing these called spike proteins that then produce the antibodies. And the mRNA dies off and destroys, but it gets destroyed by the body, but it has already propagated all these spike proteins and the memory associated with them that it now just thrives in your body. So can you get the coronavirus again? It's been studied, and it's not many cases, but from the people that got the coronavirus early on, later on that were not necessarily very careful, they did become positive for the corona again, a second time. So, just and that's the reason they're questioning the immunity, because now the question really becomes, it's like, well, if this thing is really a 90-day thing, because the regular coronavirus, if you get it, the thought process is you're about immune for about 90 days. It may be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. That's still being studied and understood, like the rest of the disease. So yes, I would say you can get the coronavirus again, especially since things are mutating and changing. New forms of the new forms of the virus are coming, especially from these other countries that we're now already aware of. So I would say yes, and I would say that you can get it again. You can get it again because the virus is mutating, and we're still learning about it. It's still ongoing, and just because you had it doesn't mean you're not going to get it again. And that's the part that we all have to be careful about. Even in the health professions, your global protection that you're going to wear just because you've had the vaccine doesn't even change. It's not like now you're like, oh my God, I can sit back and I can breathe again. And if you walk into a room with someone with the coronavirus, or you suspect the coronavirus, you're not 100%, totally immune, because and we don't know who the antibody is going to take effect in, because there are some people in the population that don't produce the antibodies as well. So that's whole nother aspect that people may have to get tested for on the back end. And that's what they're working on now. They're saying that, the folks that have received the vaccine are doing really, really well, and they haven't really suffered or succumbed to significant side effects of the disease or the vaccine. But again, these trials, how long can the trials possibly be going on for? We just really found out about this thing in March, and the trials it has its limits. The beginning effects are great, but it does have its limits, and we're just really going to have to let time continue to pass. And as the vaccine gets rolled out to other countries, and we'll listen to what's happening in the United States, but we also have to be aware what's going on globally around the globe, because all that information will be flowing in for us to try to understand what's going on and how they're managing, not managing, opening up, not opening up, all these other sort of factors that come into play, So it's complex. It's still complex. It's still unknown, but we really have to just be mindful of our surroundings. We really have to be mindful of our own protection, and those that we need to protect at home. And again, those at high risk. And we know, and everyone knows who they are. It's like you have a few medical problems. You're starting to approach that certain age. If you're above the age of 55, and you got a couple of medical problems, you have a history of lung issues, asthma. You've been a long time smoker. you know, you haven't really been doing that great of a job of taking care of yourself in the past. And, you know, these are the things that really you should really consider as potential problems for you in the future. And this is an opportunity for you to really potentially significantly decrease your risk. And that's what I really want people to really understand. It's really about decreasing risk. Absolutely. Is what it is. You know, a lot of the health professions are going to get this vaccine, and that's going to do its part in reducing our workforce and keeping our workforce at a certain par level so we can deal with those who are getting sick. Because as you guys know too, you know, in the health professions, you know, we suffered a lot of loss. There was a lot of nurses, a lot of docs who went out. Really? You know, some docs died from the disease. You know, some nurses died from the disease. Techs, you know, there are people that brought this disease home. Their loved ones are dead secondary to that. You know, there are people that I know of personally, you know, that brought the disease home to their whole families. And they were nurses in the department and they wound up doing okay. But again, it's their family members that really succumb to the disease. And that's the portion that's really sorry. It's hurtful and it's unfortunate. You know, you can only figure out the profession you've been doing for years and years and years, that you love, that you take great pride in. People come to you, your family depends on you for their medical information, and you now feel the guilt of now bringing this from the outside because they've done their part in social distancing and isolation. And now you do your part. You try to do your part at work, but you now get the disease and you now spread it to everyone in your household. And someone, unfortunately, in your household succumbs to disease. You're just like, you know, it's a really rough place to be in. And, you know, some people really think to themselves, it's like, do I really want to continue in this realm? Because it's a little bit tough, you know, emotionally, and physically.
All right, this just hit me. It's like, but this disease, like back in the 80s when AIDS hit, it was like we really didn't know too much about it, and the more they learned about it, you know, a lot of these people actually weren't dying from
that's correct
AIDS. They were dying from other issues because it attacked their immune system. Now with this coronavirus, with COVID, are we seeing something similar to that? Because, you know, a lot of it's affecting people with more underlying issues than just somebody catching it. So is it more or less the actual COVID-19 is really affecting us, or is it our underlying issues that are compounded because of COVID-19?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. So the thing with HIV and AIDS is this disease was hard to treat because it kept re-engineering itself. So you could never. So as soon as you found one thing that could really sort of attack it, it said, "Oh, you got one barrier. I'm gonna reverse it and make up something new just to move forward." But you got to remember, the thing about AIDS is it took a while for us to understand AIDS because AIDS was killing people, but it made people suffer before they actually died. You know, they were losing a lot of weight, you know, really, you know, and getting diseases that, you know, they were getting thrushed, things that sort of these white patches that people with cancer that are going through cancer treatments who have no immune system were getting. They were like, are you going into cancer treatment? Are you taking any chemotherapeutic drugs? They're like, no, I'm not taking any of that stuff. But yet they're suffering like someone who has no immune system. And until they sort of began to figure that out, but the rate in which people were dying from it was nowhere near close. You know, you got to think to yourself, there's never been a time when you heard of AIDS that you heard it like completely taking over other countries and then coming over to the United States to dominate. It really was like slow and subtle. And you're like, yeah, you know, this person who had this, and, you know, it was people that were high risk too. It's like, patients that were sharing needles, those who were getting blood transfusions, those who were involved in very high risk sexual behavior, and for a while the stigma was homosexuality, was associated with it. So, but that took time. It didn't bombard us and slap us all in the face and make us like, oh my God, what am I going to do now with this disease? And that's what I think is the real key, is that we had time to figure it out, and we made slow progressions to the point where folks stopped even talking about it. It just became something that's now not a disease that was killing folks. It's now a chronic disease. It's like, yeah, you have it, but
we can manage it.
You can manage it.
And
I'll tell you an interesting story. Is I saw a young lady, in her 30s, and the tests that we're doing, the battery of tests that we're doing, really take a look at your immune system and things of that sort. She had been to multiple hospitals, and we had probably been her fourth stop. And, everything about her appeared to be coronavirus. Everything about her lungs were all messed up. Her immune system looked like it was down. All the markers that we look for the coronavirus were up in her bloodstream that we were taking on currently. And then, we were thinking to ourselves, these markers could be elevated from other things, and I think this is somebody, she's been checked for the coronavirus multiple times at multiple institutions. They're like, we think you're going to be okay. And I'm like, and she doesn't really look that great to me. And she's young and healthy. I don't think I'm going to be able to let her go home. We're going to have to do a little, and especially when patients come to you as a physician after seeing multiple other physicians and things still don't look quite right, you should be, which every single step, you should be increasingly more aggressive and you should be increasingly more cautious, because it's okay for the first person to miss something because the symptoms weren't quite, solidified, and they may have been subtle. Someone progresses and they let you know that they've been actively seeking care and they've got multiple opinions and they're still feeling worse than they've ever felt. Turns out this young lady had full-blown AIDS. And, and then we're like, oh my God, it's just one of those things that we're so focused on the coronavirus that we think that's all that's out there. And there's still a small percentage of patients that still present with this disease that are undiagnosed and that get it for the first time. And it looks and mimics the coronavirus. So just when you say that now, it sparked it in my head like, yeah, I had to tell a lot of my colleagues, don't forget about what else is still out there. It's not just all coronavirus.
Right.
There are still other things. But again, that disease is now managed very differently than the coronavirus, because now they start bombarding the patient with all the retrovirals and all the things that they're going to set them up for the chronicity. And that person being young and healthy, their course will wind up being much better than someone to say that if they were in their 60s or 70s, they wouldn't probably survive being that advanced, within the disease.
Okay. Hey, Doc, two things, two separate things. When we talk about the symptoms, we talk about symptoms, what could come, possibilities and potential, when receiving the vaccine. You mentioned, and I'm gonna tear this abbreviation up, mRNA.
The mRNA.
Right. So you mentioned that and it being destroyed. Am I correct? So you mentioned that and it being destroyed previously or prior to. Now, would that be destroyed prior to? So what I've seen and what I've heard, and it's and I mentioned it earlier, it's in its true form of ignorance and not knowing. I don't want my DNA to be changed. When taking the vaccine, can you talk to us about that? Does that reach your DNA?
Yes, it does reach your DNA, but it doesn't reach your DNA in that it restructures different, because there's some things that reach your DNA that restructure things. It's like, your skin the part of your DNA that creates your skin is just what it is, right? And if the skin that creates your ears, if you change fundamental portions of that portion of your DNA that creates the skin for your ear, you're now going to get a new weirdly formed ear. Like the skin will start to raise and be bumpy, and the tissue will subsequently change, right? But this disease, when it goes into part of your DNA in the nucleus, which is really the center part of it, and gives rise to some of the proteins that are used for immunity, it works in a very different pathway than, let's say, your DNA that you're going to be passing down from yourself to your children that we know of anyway right now. It doesn't necessarily work that way, in that it's not built in part of your genetic basis. It's not something that, just because now I received and formed antibodies, if I have a child after I have this vaccine, the child in its mother's womb will not come out with the antibodies. They'll need to be vaccinated just the same to produce it. And what it does is essentially it builds up. It's really small in the body. It's just like it's really small, and it has good memory in the body. And what it does is, as soon as your body recognizes it and says, I remember seeing this before, this is how I combat it. So your body automatically then goes into super production mode. And that's the reason it keeps it from forming the full-blown disease, because it says, oh, I have an answer for you, and it's in my memory bank. It's been something that I've been storing for a long time, but it's still there. And once your body clicks up and it says, I recognize this as foreign, this is something that's not supposed to be here, now I'm going to start rapidly producing the antibodies to go and attack that abnormal form of virus that has now been reintroduced to the body. And no matter how it gets reintroduced, it's probably not going to get introduced through the bloodstream. It may just be produced through the aerosolized way that the coronavirus is passed around. So it won't allow your body now, it'll fight it off before it has a chance to reproduce and grow and cause the detrimental portions of the disease and the symptoms that we actually get. So that's the way it works. It doesn't fundamentally change your genetic material that will pass on from yourself to your offspring.
Okay. In the second part, it was two questions about if you're already on immunotherapy. If you're on immunotherapy, should you take the vaccine, or is that something you should consult that physician?
That's something you're going to consult with your physician, because it's all about your side effect profile. It's all about what kind of immunotherapy are you actually taking? Right. Okay. And how safe is it for you one way or the other? Because there are some folks that are really, really at high risk. It's like, transplant patients that are on immunosuppressive medications all the time. And those patients, they have to have very limited encounters with just about everyone. Those are people that have to have their food delivered to their home. It's not safe for them to be anywhere in any public place unless it's really completely and totally wide open. And that really have to be very, very careful. And those patients are on a lot of medications. The list is unbelievable. I'm talking 10, 15 medications a day. You're just like, how do you possibly do that? Most of your day is spent
taking pills,
medications. Yeah. And it's like, but this is what they have to do to survive. And I guess when you're faced with survival by taking 15 pills versus not surviving, you take
them 15 pills.
You take those 15 pills, and you're like, I have a lot more to do, and I have a lot more to offer than to suffer, from keeping these organs working the way they should, which again gives you the understanding about risk. It's like, vaccine or no vaccine, this is what you got for now. This is what we got that we think is going to help you the best way to prevent you from getting the full-blown disease or passing the full-blown disease on to someone else just the same.
Okay.
You know.
Good stuff, Doc. I guess I just got one quick question before we wrap it up.
Okay.
Right now, the vaccine it's voluntarily for individuals. Do you think there's going to be a mandate on various other healthcare, not healthcare, but let's say educators or people who are in the public? You think there's going to be a mandate established?
I think that is to come because I don't know for 100% sure because they actually haven't mandated the flu. But what you'll find is there has to be compliance. And so for us as physicians, for example, when it comes to the flu and the hospital says either you're going to take the flu vaccine or you're going to have to walk around the hospital with a mask on, and so you don't expose your aerosolized secretions or anything that may be coming from you as an exposure to everyone in the hospital. And most physicians don't want to do that when they come and see their patients or they're having to walk around. Now it's like a normal thing, right? But prior to, if you were in the hospital and you normally see your doctor in the office, you're like, why are you wearing that mask? Coming to see me. It's like if they
got something.
Yeah, so you're thinking they have something, right? It's automatic, automatic sort of reaction. It's like, wait a minute, you may want to come back, when you don't need that respirator thing that you're wearing. Mm-hmm. So they're also keenly aware of that. So in order to have them conform, the physician just winds up giving in, said, hey, listen, I've had my flu vaccine at this place. I can produce the paperwork. And if they can't, they have some weird egg allergy or they've had some allergic reaction to previous vaccines, they're also going to need to make sure that they wear something protective as well. But most of those folks know about those things already. And it's really, and the flu season is pretty extended. They'll probably start enforcing it around October, and it goes until like February. So, it's extensive, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start to make things mandated because they want to really because there's so many lives are being lost, and they have to figure out a way to really control the disease. And I think, in the next year is really going to be the telling, if the vaccine works and really starts to bring the numbers significantly down, then there may be a mandate, that if you stand a chance of potentially spreading this thing, then, and if you want to keep working in this profession, then you're going to have the vaccine. But it hasn't happened yet. If you think about it, nowhere that any of us works that they say you have to take this vaccine, because you can easily, as a doc, say, well, I don't want to work in this hospital. Right. I'll just work in my office, and that'll be all I do. But there are some people in some professions that you don't have the luxury of not being at the hospital. And when your patients ask you about whether you took the flu vaccine or not, and if you haven't taken it, then that's a problem too, because the patients are like, well, if you get sick, you can make me sick while you're doing my operation, and I don't want that. And consumers are really more up to date and really more willing to ask their physicians questions about what's going on with their own health, just to make sure that when they come to them, that they're not putting them at risk. You really want to know what's happening with the providers that are taking care of you. And for us in the emergency department, it's a little bit different because we're covered from head to toe, because every room we walk into is a potential. We almost nowadays, it's really almost, we consider everyone to have COVID until proven otherwise. And you just protect yourself in that fashion when you enter the room. Like you're just prepared to just believe that everybody has COVID. And the emergency departments and the ICUs are filling up. And that's the other thing they're talking about in California, just like you mentioned, the folks that are riding around in the ambulance, because the hospitals are on what's called diversion. And when the diversion goes into effect, that means they don't have the capacity to take and care for those who are very, very sick. They just don't have the equipment. There's no more equipment left. There's no more rooms left. So they actually have to tell you to bypass the hospital, because if you bring them in there, they won't have a ventilator for them. They're like, we don't have any ventilators left. And then they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Now they have to start getting on the phone and trying to call other medical centers to then get them back on another ambulance to try to get them to somewhere else sooner rather than later. So that's the reason some of those folks are riding around trying to find institutions that are open, that still have availability, and they may have to travel pretty far, because once they call ahead and say, hey, listen, I've got a 65-year-old patient and the oxygen saturation is really low, they're really having trouble breathing, and they're looking really sick, and we're going to get to you guys in the next 15 to 20 minutes. They're like, well, we do not have the capacity to accept this patient, and you're going to have to go to try to go to other nearby neighboring hospitals. And they're even going, the next step is to say, hey, we now have to decide, and they were doing this a lot overseas and not really talking about it much in the United States, is that they had to make a decision. You have two people who are very short of breath. One's 80, the other one's 40. They both need a ventilator. Who's going to get the vent? And they're just like, the 80-year-old, we're going to have to let you go. We're going to have to let your family know that if you stop breathing, we're not going to resuscitate you, because we needed the ventilator for this 40-year-old, because they're young, they're otherwise healthy, they will contribute to the economy, they haven't lived a long stretch of lifetime, and there's no guarantee that you as an 80-year-old will actually survive even being placed on the ventilator. Your course is going to be much harder to reverse than someone that's 40.
See, but in a way, that kind of sucks. Because think about it. That
Boy.
40-year-old could be a bum doing nothing.
Yep.
And then the 80 could still be working, holding down the business.
Yep.
Being productive, contributing.
Yep. And those are the hard ethical decisions that they're actually having to make, that they're even considering making out on the West Coast. They've been doing this all over, overseas. They've already taken that initiative. They're just like, the whole hospital's full with COVID patients. The whole emergency department is full of COVID patients. Right. And we got people in the hallways, and the system is a little bit different overseas. You may be the only game in town for miles and miles and miles. So it's like, it's 100 miles to the next hospital. So this is what you got. Deal with it. And so people have to come together as a group and a society to make hard decisions.
All right. So let me ask you this. Then what would that mean for like somebody like me? I've been susceptible to kidney stones. So say I develop a kidney stone and it's decided to move, and I'm in so much pain where I've been before. When I go to the hospital, what does that mean for me? Are they just going to be like, no, you ain't serious enough, we're going to turn you away?
They're going to treat you, because you're just going to be very low. You're going to be lower on the priority list, because you're not an imminent life threat.
Right.
They're going to still continue to do their same.
So basically, it's going to be game as usual, because
game as
usual. I usually sit anyway.
You have to have the identical. So your comparison is really apples to oranges. You have to have the orange to the orange, like the new ripe orange versus the old wrinkled orange. It's like, which one am I gonna? And you have to service both, because they're now suffering from the same disease. It's like, who do I provide service for with limited resources?
Yeah, but I mean, in a way, it's not really apples to oranges, because it involves everything. Because now, like we said earlier, it's not like COVID's the only game in town. Correct. We still have all these other diseases and conditions and everything that we've been experiencing, and that we're going to continue to experience. So I just want to know, like,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely
is like everything on the back burner because of COVID, or
no? Yeah, things change significantly in all hospitals. You're right. you're 100% right. It's not apples to oranges, like I said. It's just if you present to right in front of me, it's one thing. I'll just decide apples to oranges. But in the higher scheme of things, it's like you're having a heart attack, you have COVID. Which one do I deal with? And you're both 40 years old, or you're 60, and I can still save you from having a heart attack. Do I do what needs to be done? That, I think, is a totally different question that people will do. But I will tell you the triage system changes significantly. Say, for example, someone with diabetes, because people with really bad diabetes that are in what's called diabetic ketoacidosis, that is really severe and life-threatening. Those patients traditionally always go to the ICU every single time without fail. They're acidotic. They need to be on an insulin drip. They're going to go to the ICU all the time, every time. That changes 100% when COVID came around. They're like, you don't need a tube and you don't need to be on a ventilator, then you're not getting into this ICU.
Really?
The only reason you're getting into this ICU is if you're on a ventilator. And that's it. That's all we have room for. And that's all we can use the space for. Everyone else is going to have to manage those things that normally don't get managed in an ICU setting that are now going to get managed out of the ICU, which was shocking. But again, the triage process happens that way, and we had folks that were otherwise young and otherwise healthy that had blood clots in the lung. And we had to make the decision like, okay, so this person is young and healthy. We're going to teach them how to give themselves injections to thin their blood, even though they're not in that, even though we're in a hard time. Now I got to tell this young person, you have a blood clot in your lungs. We should keep you in the hospital. But keeping you in the hospital, you already have this blood clot in your lungs, also exposes you now to the coronavirus. Because just about everybody around you and all the other floors, even though they try to separate the floors, has the coronavirus. Now, and that young person, has to now evaluate their risk. They're like, I have a blood clot, but it's not the worst blood clot that could kill me, that we all know and established to know. So now that we know of, now we're like, yes, yours is bad, but it's not the worst, right? And what we're going to now do is we're going to try to manage your symptoms on an outpatient basis. We're going to have a doctor call you twice a day to check on you, to make sure you're doing okay. And if things start to slip or things start to get worse, or you're not compliant with the medication, you don't know exactly how to give yourself the medications and do your own treatment at home, because we would never do this otherwise. But COVID it really changed our perspective. Like,
it's a big ass can of worms.
Right. Now you're like, and because you're like, she's young and healthy, is she going to survive the pulmonary embolus, the blood clot that's in her lungs? Probably, because she doesn't have a very large one, but she has it there nonetheless. Should it be managed in the hospital? Yes. But now with all that's going on, is the hospital really the best place for you? And it's like, you have to make decisions, and it's like, and this is a decision that you make in conjunction with the patient, because you really have to involve them, because this is really sort of what we call in the medical profession shared decision making, because it's like, I'm going to tell you about your risk. I'm going to tell you what I think is best. I'm going to tell you what I would do for my own family member. And now you have to really start processing in your mind, like, okay, what do you do?
That is crazy.
Do it. It's like, and if you're someone who lives alone, with someone else who's disabled, then they're not going to really help you get the injection. If you have to give yourself injections in the thigh, in the buttocks, whatever it may be, you need to have support. Someone who's going to be there to watch you, keep an eye on you, take a look at your breathing to see if your breathing changes. And these are all things that we had to take into consideration that we never had to do before. So the amount of video conferencing that's happening now since March has exploded. And that's a new way that we have interactions now with patients and physicians and whatever provider may be following you.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way about being in a hospital.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd rather be home with that bottle of oxycodone than sitting in the hospital.
Right. Now you really have to take it in consideration. You're like, listen, I've had this before, and I want to be okay, and I don't really want any parts of having to be involved with
that other thing.
With that other thing, because it's like the more you're in the hospital, your doctor, your nurse may rotate from one floor to the next. Yep. Your doctor may be coming from one place. Your patient care technician, the transporter, is taking patients and just getting exposure left to right. And now you could have been at home with none of that exposure. Right. So, when you have to make up your mind, it's like, well, I really want to do what's best for you. And this is the best way to go about it. And just trying to figure that out, because we've never had to figure that out in the past.
Because I'll be asking, did you change your gloves?
Right. Is your mask on the right way?
Hey, I will say this. This is crazy. Now, I just had a doctor's appointment last week. And she came in with gloves on.
Yep.
But she washed her hands with the gloves on.
Yep.
I'm like, ain't that kind of like, I mean, in a way,
they're trying to make sure they cover all bases, because they're not only just covering themselves, because they have to touch their own personal stuff. Like if they have to readjust their mask, they don't want to touch something that may be contaminated and now put it on their face.
Yeah, when they're ain't that like washing a condom out or something?
Yeah, well, it's a little yeah, no, not quite. Because
I'm sorry, I just had to say something.
No, it is what it is. But these are things that we want to keep the surface areas as clean as possible, and they're doing it for themselves, because the disease is so sneaky that you really can't take any chances. Even if you're, they may go to scratch their eye with the glove on, forget they have the glove on. Readjust their mask. They've come in contact with someone, they touch something. And they're trying to do their best to keep themselves very, very, very healthy. Because you got to understand, across the country, there are doctors who said, "Listen, thank you, but no thank you. We're shutting down shop. We're not coming to the hospital. Our group has decided to no longer participate. We're going to take this 6 months out. What everything's doing in 6 months."
Wow.
So they're just, listen, don't call me. Don't ask me for anything. If the patients call me, I'll talk to them via video. But as far as coming to the hospital, as far as emergencies or any of that stuff.
See, now that's crazy. Because that'll be the same people to get the subsidies from the government and they ain't doing nothing.
Right. And that's the way, that's even more politically crazy that people will.
But somebody like you wouldn't.
Asking, and it's like, why would you even do that? You made the conscious decision on your own.
That's your job. Just like a cop made his decision. I made my decision. I could get shocked any day.
Right.
So I just don't get it. That's crazy.
And none of us are going to get it, because everybody has their own selfish way of thinking about it. And some people are just like, listen, I'm not ready to I'm a human, and I'm not, and this disease is too new for me. And I have friends in other countries that say this thing is out of control. So I'm going to check out. I'm going to check out for me. And I'm going to sit this out and wait till this thing blows over. And when this thing blows over, then I'll think about reintroducing myself back into the space.
Boy, these doomsday preppers ain't looking too crazy these days.
Yeah. And they had to fly physicians in emergently from different parts of the country to actually come in to provide emergent services that, that these doctors just said, listen, we're just not coming. Don't call us. We're officially packing it up. Thanks, and it's your responsibility now.
Wow. And those people deserve that hazard pay.
So that's the crazy part about it. And again, it's on an individual basis. We don't know who's getting a hazard pay, who's not. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone were to raise their hand for hazard pay and decided that I need to stay home because I'm scared of the disease, like every other human being is scared of the disease,
Right.
Because we're all at risk, and there's plenty of doctors who've gotten sick from the disease, but plenty of us decided to step up and do what's right for patients, for families, and things of that nature, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's why unions are good.
yeah.
Dr.
And to each thine own, to each thine own. You know, things work for some, in some situations, they don't work for other situations.
Yes. Dr. Perotte, again, man, we thank you, man. We thank you. Very appreciative,
the
man.
good doctor.
For sure.
I appreciate you, good doctor.
For sure.
Yes,
You know, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. You know, I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy the back and forth. I'm tuned in on Mondays. You know, as soon as it comes up on my feed, I'm tapped in. I'm like listening, laughing, you know, appreciating, checking in on the conversation. So, you know, I know your audience is growing and getting bigger and bigger every week. So, you know, I really want to do my part to contribute as part of the discussion that's happening, you know, around the world, you know, because these are relevant topics that you guys are talking about, and they hit home for us all in various ways, various shapes, various forms. We're all going to go through this, and we're all going to get through this, and it's all about figuring it out. You know, we got to do it together, and that's the way we do.
Yeah, Doc, man, we definitely appreciate you, man, for you know, just sharing, man, just sharing the information, man. Sean Heaven says thanks, man, for the information. My brother Sean.
Good brother Sean.
Yeah, so you know, we appreciate you, man, you know, for coming in, man. I'm gonna have to chop this up in pieces and go back, you know, but we wanted to, you know, lay this out, you know, because there's so much going on. This is the topic, this is the primary topic that everyone is talking about, you know, and you know, it's a decision to be made, you know. And we don't, you know, again, I said it before, we don't want to have a platform where there's we're not having resolve. We're just sitting here talking, you know. So, you know, be able to have a place, man, where we can talk and come up with some solution-based, you know, options, man. And this sounds like it's a solution, man, you know. So we, again, thank you, Doc. Thank you, man.
No problem. Thank you, gentlemen.
Now, you also had a call, man. You had mentioned a couple weeks ago, man. I saw you had made a call out. I don't know if that's still there, you know, on Facebook, on social media, man. If you wanted to take that time.
Yes. So, you know, again, you know, the coronavirus has presented multiple opportunities for us all, and you know, in the community, you know, we see that testing is really difficult to come by. You know, you hear horror stories in different situations where someone's looking to get some testing. They need rapid testing, they need PCR testing, and those options are just not available. So a few of my friends and partners have decided to come together, and we've opened up a testing center, you know, where we actually perform the test, and we're working with Quest Diagnostics to get us the results. You know, we've got an electronic medical record, and we're seeing patients. And you know, we just weren't prepared for the growth. And that's really what it really comes down to. You know, we're looking for people who are familiar with registering patients with different insurances, and also swabbing, that have previous experience swabbing patients' noses, and really do really good public service work. You know, this is paid service work, but really want to provide this for the community. And as our numbers continue to grow and get bigger and bigger, we're going to need some more help. And it was surprising that we didn't anticipate that it was going to grow this quickly. So now we're looking to really sort of mobilize, and I had to reach out to my Facebook family to say, hey, listen, you know, we're in the central New Jersey area. If there are people and patients without any jobs that have previous experience with this. So we want to invite them to potentially participate. You know, we'll put them through an interview process, and we're looking to hire some folks to help us to manage this thing. And, you know, we have a way that we want to go about it, and it's very detailed, it's very disciplined. And, you know, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, and we want to make sure we provide good quality care, and we want to make sure we do the right thing the right way all the time, every time. And we want to get people trained. We want to have people understand how we do things, make people welcomed, you know, very, very efficient. You want patients to come in and get out, you know, safely go back home to their loved ones if they need to access their results. You know, those things are very easy. So we have a group called cpcmedgroup.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on the regular internet.
Good.
You know, just put it in your web browser and you can make appointments. You know, we're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So very limited hours, but there's a lot of back end work. You know, some folks are like, why you're not open late in the evening?
Right.
Because what people don't know is that we sit out for 2 or 3 hours afterwards,
Okay.
you know, doing all the paperwork that has to happen afterwards. So, you know, cpcmedgroup.com is where you can go and find out all the information. You can send us a message through Facebook. You can send us a message through Instagram. You know, there's always the little link that you can push when you actually get to the actual website. So it's myself and 2 other partners, and we're looking to hire folks. So if you're in the health professions, you have previous medical tech experience, you have registration experience, we look for it and look forward to interviewing and hiring folks and put folks to work and pay them appropriately and help provide a needed service, you know, for a lot of people. cpcmedgroup.com.
Good.
All one word, cpcmedgroup.com. Yes.
Good. Thanks, Doc, man. Dr. Perotte, again, man, always bringing some information, man, so we can continue to be informed, you know, while we're going through this time, and not only going through this time, you know, for ourselves, but we're going through it for our family. So when you're doing your due diligence and, you know, trying to be informed and, you know, just not only just think about yourself, but think about your family, think about those that, you know, you're coming in contact with when making these decisions, man. So if you can, everybody's just watching, you know, continue to share, continue to like, go to our Facebook group, Just Our Thoughts fan page, go to Just Our Thoughts on YouTube, like and subscribe, check our content out, share our content with those that you know. Sit down and watch this with your family, watch it with your kids. Dr. Perotte definitely took his time out and gave us a lot of information, man, so we can be informed. So yeah, Dr. Perotte, we want to wish you, man, just a wonderful holiday season. Continue to have this great holiday season, man. Be safe, you know, out there on the front lines. We thank you, man. We thank you, brother, for you know.
Sir. Thank you.
And
Thank you, good doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. So we definitely wish you a wonderful new year. We will be talking, man, for sure, and give the love to your family, man, and the kids, man, fellas, with Just Our Thoughts. So these are Just Our Thoughts with the fellas. What's going on, everybody? I'm Keith, host of Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas, where 4 to 5 of my brothers give their perspective on national as well as local news. We touch on some trending hot topics as well as culturally relevant news. We also get a chance to dive into some deep core conversations. Check us out live every other Monday at 7 p.m. You can find us on Just Our Thoughts on YouTube live, as well as Just Our Thoughts fan page on Facebook. Also, please don't forget to follow us on IG, JOT with the Fellas.
All right.
Yo, why Tough Nell be looking like a middle school principal?